Hi, this is Blue Rose Gardner, but you can call me Jenna. Okay, so this video is about Undertale, and this is going to be the first of hopefully several videos about Undertale theories that I have, or, analysis, that kind of thing. This video specifically is going to be about Frisk, Chara, and Asriel, and how they relate to the player, or how they sort of reflect the player. By the way, no official pronunciations on Chara. I've heard Chara, Chara, and Chara. I'm gonna stick with Chara based on the word character. Doesn't really matter. There's no official pronunciation, so you're free to say whatever you want, but I'm gonna stick with Chara. And I'm personally a fan of the Chara as narrator theory. It's hard because it's debatable how much control or influence Chara has. I think that regardless of whether or not you believe in the narrator being Chara theory, I think it's pretty clear that in any route, Chara is some kind of influence following Frisk around. I think that's pretty clear. And I mean, just by the fact that Frisk is having these flashbacks, like when Undyne knocks you off the bridge, and you flash back to when Chara first fell, how else would you be having that flashback if not some kind of influence from Chara? Okay, so in their own way, they all kind of act as foils for the player, which is very interesting because the idea of the character being treated as a character is unique as far as I know, at least to this extent. But at the same time that they're sort of treated as a separate character, the lines between, Frisk and you, and Chara and you, and Frisk and Chara are all kind of blurred. So I guess first of all I'm going to talk about Frisk versus Chara because that's the most obvious dynamic. So in a way, it seems like Frisk sort of represents the good side of the player, and Chara represents the bad side of the player. But I think that's looking at it a little too simplistically. I think it's more looking at it in terms of immersion or empathy towards the game and the characters in it. Frisk represents the kind of person who really lets themselves get involved and, make friends with these characters, the person who really sort of gets immersed in the story. Well, Chara represents more the person who's distanced themselves to the point that they don't even think about what they're doing as being bad. I mean, it does seem like, from the dialogue at the end of the genocide route, where Chara actually talks to you, it does seem like they don't really have, it's not like they really did this out of hate, very much the player's influence. It seems like, I like the interpretation of the player sort of acts as a mediator for pushing things one way or the other. You're sort of limited in this game. In this, I really feel like what you're limited by is sort of the characters themselves, or on the pacifist route. You can't hurt certain people at that point. You're already on the pacifist route. At the beginning of the route, when things are sort of undecided, so the player can sort of push them and Frisk towards, a bad path where, Chara just becomes more and more corrupted, and then Frisk gets possessed by them at some point, or, a pacifist route. So while the player is trying to decide how much one way or the other they want to go, how much they want to empathize with this game, or how much they want to distance themselves to just see what happens, it's sort of representing how much Chara's being corrupted, how much they're influencing Frisk in that corrupted state. So they're sort of the two ends of the spectrum, and sort of serve as the most obvious representation of the player. Okay, but I also wanted to bring in Flowey, or Asriel, but more Flowey because that's the name he went by when all of this stuff was happening. because I don't see people really talking about how he relates to a player as much. He's sort of done all of it. You know, he started off like, you know, most people want to do the nice thing first, I feel like. You know, some people like to be destructive, but usually not in a game like this where you really are supposed to empathize with these characters. You know, Minecraft is fun to be destructive because, you know, it's blocking characters. In a game like this, most people I think really do want to start off pretty pacifist, but then over time, while he's sort of like literally stuck in that world because that's the world he lives in, when you're when you're a fan of the game to the point where you don't really want to stop playing, you know, you don't want it to be over, so it's hard not to be like, well, I really want to play again, especially since it has such high replay value with, you know, the neutral route having so many variations. You're sort of metaphorically stuck there too, just wanting to keep doing it, keep playing the game, so you end up wanting to do different things and see what happens, because otherwise it will get boring, but you don't want to just give it up. And then of course the most extreme route gets you a lot of interesting things that you can't learn about the characters any other way. And ironically, the more you like the character, the more you want to know all of this stuff. And that way, like, Flow is sort of like the way, sort of the curiosity of the player to sort of do everything. While I guess Frisk and Chara are sort of like a spectrum of involvement or immersion in the game. You know, Flow is the kind of player who, regardless of that, where you are in that spectrum, a person might choose to do a negative route. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's just something I've been thinking about. Sort of how well this game analyzes players and sort of understands where they're coming from. It's kind of harsh on players too, isn't it? You know, at the end of the pacifist route, if you try to open up your game again, you're basically told, please don't ever play again. But you know, even though at first I was feeling very much like the game was sort of negative on the player, and it was kind of making me sad, just the feeling of like, oh, I guess to them, like, I'm not a real person, and even though I feel like I'm friends with them, like, really to them, they're just making friends with Frisk, and not you, the player. They don't even know you exist. At this point, all you are is someone who can reset their happy ending. I mean, I think I know a lot of people who felt that way, especially right after the game ended. But, you know, I guess sort of stuff like this has made me feel more, like, positively about it, that, you know, all of us might not really be players anymore, might not be directly involved or interacting in the game anymore. But, you know, things like this video, where I'm sort of analyzing Undertale, and, you know, the future videos I'm going to be making, hopefully, talking about Undertale, you know, fan art, fan fiction, all of that stuff, kind of expanding the world beyond even the scope of the game, sort of world building, and, you know, character building, at least at its best. I feel like fan creations can really add to the world of Undertale beyond the canon. And this is something that's kind of changed in my mind more recently, and largely because of Undertale. You know, certain pieces of fan art will affect people, you know, just as much as, or if not more than, certain moments in the game. And, you know, people watching the way the fandom has changed over time through people's analysis and changing opinions, and it's kind of like the fandom's gone through phases, and sort of seeing characters be built up in a way. Like, I remember when people were very negative on Chara, because it's much easier to blame Chara for everything that happens in the genocide route and be like, oh, Chara's evil and they possessed Frisk and that's what happened. It sort of allows the player to not take any responsibility for what happened. But I think that's totally not the point. You are supposed to take responsibility for what happened in that route. And Chara is kind of just as much a victim in their own way. And now the fandom has sort of reevaluated that. That's basically what I'm getting at. I'm sort of getting off track from my original topic. But I think that at this point we've kind of gone from players to creators in our own right. At least, you know, at our best. And I guess that's a thought I want to end the video with. So, if you like the video, like it. If you want to see more Undertale stuff, I'm hopefully coming out with that in the next couple of weeks. Not setting any time frames up because heaven knows, as soon as I set a deadline, I'm gonna miss it. But hopefully, next month, you know, the next couple of weeks, I'll be putting out more videos about Undertale as, you know, energy schedule allows.